Hey, what's up, guys? So we finally got the end of Stranger Things, and I gotta say, it wasn't all that bad. This season follows our characters split this time, as Eleven and the Breyer family moving to Cali to start over, while the rest of the gang try to live normal lives before the Upside Down. But after a few mysterious and gruesome deaths, they are forced right back into the fray and try to unravel this new threat before it is too late. So the biggest thing I can say that the season improves on is actually having a good villain. Ever since season 1, we really haven't had a decent villain. Honestly, can't remember them in season 2 and 3. I think that was kind of the big issues in those seasons, is there was no, big villain to get behind for us to root against. Just having Russians or a bigger demon thing from the first season isn't really like satisfying, I guess. And that's what kind of makes a show is you have to have a good antagonist or the protagonist, and them not actually having one ever since season 1 was kind of, I think, really hurt the show a lot and kind of made the seasons maybe not the best. I think that was one of the issues for me, is that between like those two, season 2 and 3, there was no decent villain to get behind. And where this season actually has one, where he has motives and honestly the same powers as 11, and could be actually potentially be stronger. It still remains to be seen, so we'll have to see in the end. But actually having a decent villain was the biggest improvement that they did on this, and I think that's what made this season really good compared to the other ones. What I also liked about this season is the characters actually had to figure out how to deal with problems differently compared to basically pretty much all the seasons where they had to rely on 11 to do all the things that they needed to. They got to do more of the legwork and the actual fighting compared to the other seasons, because now they can't just rely on 11 to do what they need them to do, because they don't have superpowers. So now with everyone on a level playing field and they can't rely on her, they have to come up with creative ways to figure out how to beat things and all that. So they just can't rely on the person with the superpowers to do it all. And that's what kind of made it this season a bit different compared to the other ones, and added a new element to it. And them, especially like 11, having to figure out how to be, I guess, human now. I mean, she still was, but her having to figure out how to deal with her problems without having to like force push everybody, because she can't push everyone away or kill anyone or do whatever with her mind anymore. So she can't just figure out her problems that way. She has to figure out her problems how like normal people would deal with them. And that kind of made her character, I guess, develop a bit more in a sense. Just that, like I said, she just can't rely on her powers anymore. And on top of the best new character they added was Eddie. Eddie was such a likable character. I liked him basically since the first time you met him, and him as the D&D commander was just really good. And every time Eddie's there, he just steals the screen compared to all the other characters, and he was just a great new likable character, like I said. And it's just too bad what they did to him. It would have been nice to see more of him. It's just too bad. But anyways, he was a great new character, and it would have been nice to see a lot more of him, since I really liked him a lot compared to even a lot of the legacy characters that have been on here for a while. Eddie just brought this charismatic persona that just stole the screen whenever he was there, and he was just a really likable character. Like I said, there's no other word I can really describe him as. He was just an awesome character, just a badass, and kind of just helped some of the other characters like Dusty come out of his shell a bit more, because Dusty was always just more the background character doing all the explaining and figuring shit out, and giving Dusty more of courage and to take more of the frontline stuff. It was nice to see. One of my favorite things about this season was all the death scenes. They went all out on all the death scenes. They were all just so gruesome and brutal. It was just so funny to see. I mean, I'm weird and like that stuff, but just see them just come up, all the limbs just twisting up, their eyeballs just popping out of their head. They didn't hold back like I thought they would have, but it was just great to see them just go all out on those scenes, and it's just the brutality of it. They really went all out. I'm really kind of surprised they did that for this show, since how popular it is, and you think they would tone it down, but no, they went all out on those, and it was great to see. The last thing I'll say about this season was there was a good action and plot balance. Sometimes they do way too much explaining and not enough action, but here there was a good balance between them both. There was enough plot getting detailed to us, and then something would happen, like something would happen that would amp up the tension. Either like bad guy found them, or we had the bullies that were trying to figure out who killed the first girl at the beginning. They would find them, or so there was always something happening. So there was kind of no really like boring scenes, and a lot of the scenes I guess there was some that were sort of filler that could be cut out, but there was not like a whole lot of bloat that just didn't really serve the story at all. There's always something, either little moments between characters that last a couple minutes to help build up their relationships or mend even old relationships, because there was some between Nancy and what's his face, Steven, that were built up in the first season, but they got shelved because they got interested with someone else. But because they're away now, they were able to build those relationships back up again. So I mean, it's hard to tell what they're going to do with them, but it was nice to see them having all these small moments to build up relationships that didn't really take away from the story. They were kind of little tiny stops, but that didn't derail the whole show. And the last thing I'll say is the CGI looked great. I like the look of the bad guy. He was kind of this creepy, burnt, Freddy Krueger looking guy. Yeah, they gave a nice ominous voice. You could tell when he comes around, shit was about to go down. So I thought they did a really good job with him. And like I said, that's probably the best thing about this season is them actually having a good villain, and that's what kind of really made this season really good for me. Now, it wasn't all good. There's a few things I didn't like. For one was Hopper in Russia. It just kind of felt weird and out of place. There was kind of no sense why he would be kept in prison. I know they probably just kept him alive because people like the character and the actor, so we got to give him something to do. And him somehow surviving the whole explosion and being taken to Russia, I don't really get that, but sure. And then when he's in the prison, it's like a secret research facility, and they have the Demigorgons there for some reason. So I mean, I get having prisoners as the experimental tools, but it doesn't make sense why you'd have it at a prison like that when anything could happen. Like, I'm sure the riots or there's something can always go wrong. So you think you'd have the facility at least off of the prison? It's literally attached to it. You think it would be something just away from the prison, but it's close by so they can shuffle prisoners over there, but they don't have the whole prison right there on top of them. That kind of would have made more sense. I don't know what the Russians were doing with the Demigorgons. They just, I don't know. I never got the whole Russian thing. I mean, I guess because it was during the Cold War era, but yeah, it just seemed like a very loose plot. And they're well, they're always the overarching bad guys in the background, but I guess not really after this season. Details get revealed, but so we got to keep them involved, I guess. And that's what it wasn't terrible, but I think Hopper should have died. It would have made his character sacrifice more, and him not dying just kind of shows us that they'll never really kill off any likable characters, really, or characters that have been here for a long time, because they just won't kill them off. And when you have shows that won't sacrifice characters for the story, it kind of ruins anything for me. It just kind of takes away any gravity to any situations or sacrifices, because they'll just come back again. No, it doesn't matter. So I kind of wish they got rid of Hopper and we didn't have any of that prison sequence, because it really didn't add anything to the story. There was just kind of them doing their own thing over there. You had him, and then what's her face, Joyce was over there too. I mean, I guess because they needed her something to do too, so it kind of gave her something to do, so they had a reason, somewhere to stick her where all the other plot points are happening, so they just had her doing something. But it doesn't make sense. She would just leave her kids, go to Russia for Hopper. I mean, it was just a weird thing. I didn't really like it. Like I said, it wasn't bad itself, but it was just weird in the story of Stranger Things. I just didn't like it. It kind of felt a bit out of place. And the last thing I'll say that I didn't like, because there really wasn't much I didn't like about this season, was how at the end some characters were alive and some weren't. I'm going to ruin it in a second, but just the way they ended on some characters wasn't the best for me, and that's the only thing I didn't like on character-wise. Story-wise, I liked it all, except the Hopper part, and the way they ended some of the characters. That's the only thing I really didn't like. Okay, so now I'll get in some of those spoiler points. I didn't like Papa's death. It was kind of lame. It would have been nice to see either him, I don't even know if he's even dead, because the way the show does, he actually may be alive. He still kind of could have been alive, and I could definitely see them bringing him back just because we didn't see him actually die. So, I don't know. But the way they had him kind of die, quote, was just kind of lame, because he kind of just got shot and then just fell over. But I don't know what his plan was. So he's escaping that facility, and then he comes up and sees the helicopter with the sniper. So it's and then he's trying to shuffle around the helicopter and then just gets shot a bunch of times. It's kind of he could have done something. He could have freed 11 because he wanted to take 11, and then have 11 either kill the helicopter, and then she has to break him or kill him or something because he wants to take her, and then she doesn't want to go. That could have been something. Or do something else, when they came up, there was a whole thing, a whole garrison ready to take them, and then he frees 11 or something. and then he sacrifices himself to actually like save her or something. Like, you know, she defeats all of them, but, you know, they still have the one guy or whatever, prove that he like still like actually cared about her, but he still wanted the best for her and all that, but he just does it in his own weird way. Like, it's kind of, I guess, perceived as bad, but can also be good if it's thought in a different way. I didn't like how they killed him. It's kind of lame for kind of a character that's kind of has mixed opinions, I guess, on him, because some people think he's bad, some people think he's good. It's kind of one of those anti-hero types, because he does a lot of bad and good things, and he thinks what he thinks he's doing is right. So it just would have been nice to see him not die so lame, but like I said, who knows if he's actually dead. He could very well be alive. So next is possibly the most badass scene I've ever seen this show do, was having Eddie play the Master of Puppets. It looked really cool, like him up there playing Master of Puppets with all the bats swirling around him. It looks something like right out of a heavy metal concert, but the only thing I didn't like about it was how they kind of split up the song into these different parts. I would have liked just him playing one section of the song and having all the bats like swirl around him and then him taking off. I didn't really like the different sections kind of being split up to 3 different sections. That could just be my own personal thing, but I just would have preferred it in one section and then him taking off. That would have been handled, I guess, better for me. That's my only thing on that. I just didn't like how the song would just split up into 3 different sections. This thing is a little minor thing, but the gun that Nancy bought wasn't a piece in that time period. I have a friend who's a gun expert, and the one she bought is a Mossberg Maverick 88 12 gauge, and those weren't sold until the 2010s. So that was kind of, I mean, no, most people won't notice it, but for people who did, like my friend, you know, why didn't you just get something out of that time period? You could have bought, I think there was a Mossberg Maverick of that age, but it wasn't that one. So you could have just bought something of that time period. It's just something, you know, little things like that, little details that matter like that when there was no reason not to. Now, I'll go into my biggest thing I've had in this show. The biggest problem I had was how Max did not die and Eddie did. It was just, I don't know, when I saw what Eleva's doing, it just reminded me of so much of Star Wars and Rey. Like, she just like touched her and then she's alive somehow. I don't know how this girl's alive. She got her arms twisted up, her eyes are popping out of her head. How is she alive? She's not alive. Don't tell me that she's alive. Her arms are all twisted around, legs, you know, wagging every way. How she's not alive? Like, there's no way you touched her and now she's alive. You can't just make up these powers that she all of a sudden can do. Like, there was no implied healing or anything ever. She can just, oh, I can touch you, and then like, not even in like a real space, she kind of touched her in her mind and now she's alive. So I don't know, I don't get that. Like, and honestly, what life would there really be for her now? Because now her arms and legs are all messed up, can't see anymore because she's blind. So it's like, you're asking for someone who may not even want to be alive anymore. But I that was my biggest issue, is how she was alive and Eddie wasn't, because I wouldn't even talk about Eddie. So Eddie, the way Eddie died, it was just weird how he just kind of has this complex where he always runs, I guess. And I mean, I guess he sort of did, but I mean, what else are you gonna do? You're being framed as this big cult leader. Everyone thinks you killed this girl when you didn't, and no one, you know, obviously no one's gonna believe you that, oh, she just started floating up and her arms and twisted up, her eyes just exploded, and she's a mangled mess, but I didn't do it. So, like, who else would they believe? But this was kind of weird at this point, because, you know, this town has a bunch of weird things that have happened to it. So, like, you know, it'd be another weird thing. I just chalk up to another weird thing going on there. But no, it's this guy. It's a cult leader. But I guess in that time period, I guess there was a lot of news about that stuff, and him being framed. Of course, you know, he's kind of an outcast. Listens to, you know, the devil music and dresses the way he dresses. He doesn't have this football all-star guy like the guy that was tracking him down. So that was kind of my issue. And then the way he died was just getting like pecked by birds, when he could have just ran away further, just kept biking. There was so many things they could have kept him alive. And I mean, I guess they didn't keep him alive just because it was easier to kill him off at this point, because if he came back, you know, everyone would be looking for him, and probably just, it'd be hard to keep him in there because he'd be a wanted fugitive, and this is probably the easiest way. So they'll give him a heroic sacrifice, even though he didn't really sacrifice nothing. He kind of just stood there and got eaten by birds. I didn't really like that, and I wish they would have kept Eddie in and killed Max. I don't know how Max is alive and Eddie isn't. It's a strange choice, you know, a Stranger Things choice. The last thing I'll say is the 2 day later cut at the end when they beat him was kind of lame. I don't know. It was just kind of weird. It's an arbitrary like 2 day number. Why not 3, 4? Why is it 2? I don't know what else I could have done, but it's just a weird thing. I just didn't like. And then all the town people just still there, like the whole town's in shambles. They had a massive earthquake. There's like lava coming to the ground. Why is anybody still around this place? So it kind of makes no sense, especially 2 days. I think it's not that big of a town. Everybody would be gone out of there. It doesn't make sense that there's still people around 2 days later when their whole town's in shambles. I didn't really get that, and the way they kind of introduced the next season of it, just it started snowing, and then they all kind of just meet up in the field and they look at the big storm that no one notices coming. It's just kind of lame. I would have liked to see maybe 11 seeing one around or something. Just her in a dream, or like her sleeping or something. Like they could have been, they're all like having their one moment, and then you see like 11 having a freak out because one's like entered her mind or something. It's like, give you this isn't over yet, or you think it's over, or it's just beginning, some whatever thing they could have given. I don't know. I just didn't really like how they had this jump big storm in the background. Like no one notices that the giant fucking tornado, swirling fire hurricane thing coming at the town or in the town, whatever. No one notices that, huh? Everyone's just everyone's just looking at the snow. Oh, it's snowing. Durr. I don't know. I didn't really like that, and I kind of hope this is the end of Stranger Things, because it was kind of wavering the last few seasons, and they kind of bounced it back now with actually having a villain now, and them saying like, oh, he was behind it all, which is sure, whatever. I don't believe it, but okay, sure. It's fine. It's okay. We'll keep that. Sure, it's believable. He was behind it all, and once they beat him, I really hope it's over, because first of all, the actors are kind of getting kind of old, so they're all kind of getting in their, what are they, all in their like early 20s now, or most of them, so it's like kind of getting past the believable point of them being like 15 or whatever the hell they are. That, and I don't want to see just like either it's like the mind flare or whatever, it's just like a bigger monster that's big actually controlling him. He was a puppet the whole time. There's actually a bigger guy behind him. It's kind of the Scooby-Doo mysteries. Just like, pull off the mask and it's actually somebody else. I don't know. I really kind of hope it's over after this, and we can rest the show on a good note, because even this season I kind of thought he should have been dead. They threw a bunch of they lit him on fire, his actual body. So I don't know. And then he kind of just falls out the window, and then he's fine. But whatever, I'll take one more season. It's okay, I guess. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes, and I'm fine with one more, and hopefully they can keep it together. And I think they will, because they actually have actually decent villain. They can actually fight, and we'll see. We'll have to see, I guess. Anyways, this season was a really, really good done season. It's definitely worth going to watch, and if you really like Stranger Things, you'll definitely enjoy it, because it improved a lot of the things that were lacking in the other few seasons. And it's definitely worth going to watch. Anyways, thanks for watching.